How much calcium do we really need? Some experts think that the current recommendation of 1,000 milligrams a day for adults and 1,200 for women over 50 is too high. Now, Walter Willett is one of those people. He is the chair of the nutrition department at Harvard, and he feels that these higher recommendations were based on more limited studies, which show that even with a supplement of calcium and vitamin D, there is only a small effect, and you're really only slightly less likely to avoid a hip fracture. And even that may be due to the vitamin D and not the calcium. Now, the concern about too much calcium is that you could be at a higher risk for a kidney stone, because when you have that excess calcium in your urine, it has to be filtered out. And secondly, that excess calcium in the arteries could kind of create a calcification in the arteries and put you at an increased risk for heart disease. Now, that does not mean that calcium and vitamin D are not really important, because they are. So what do? Well, Dr. Willett suggests that we consume about 500 to 700 milligrams of calcium a day, which is more in keeping with the recommendations from the World Health Organization or the UK. Now, vitamin D also, those recommendations we need to have a little higher. So he's recommending 800 to 1,000 international units of vitamin D along with the calcium to make sure it gets absorbed. So with those numbers, it's not so hard to get it in your diet, especially if you consume dairy products, because one serving of milk or kefir or yogurt's around 300. And if you consume plant-based products like soy milk or almond milk, just make sure they're fortified to that same 300, which many of them are. Now, if you don't have any dairy products, you can still manage to get 300, 400, 500 in your diet. Tofu, for example, depending on how firm it is, may have 175, 200 for half of a cup. An ounce of almonds has around 80. They're the highest source of calcium of any nut. An orange has about 50. And 3 cups of greens, you know I like you to get your greens every day, has around 150. Spinach, arugula, kale, and then of course, I am the bean queen. A cup of white beans is 120 milligrams of calcium, and that's a little higher than lentils or some of the other beans, but still we want to get our beans. So listen, here is what you do. Tally up your typical intake of calcium for a day, and if there's shortfall, take a low dose calcium supplement. That is smart eating.